DC United takes a step toward the playoffs, the rot stops in Vancouver, and San Jose is 3 points closer to the Supporters' Shield. Next on The Daily. Hello and welcome to The Daily and happy Monday. Once again, plenty of playoff implications going down in MLS this weekend. I'm Andrew Wiebe. Next to me, Greg Lalas. And Greg, the big one in the Eastern Conference on Sunday, DC United, a 1-0 victory against Chivas USA. Surprise goal scorer, in fact.
I don't think that anybody was sitting there on Friday and saying, you know what, Branko Boskovic is going to be the hero on Sunday against Chivas USA. But he was. Considering all the brouhaha last week about Boskovic not getting playing time, supposedly he was complaining and everything, he comes on as a sub against Chivas and he gets the winner. Afterward, head coach Ben Olsen said, hey, you guys in the media, you made a meal of this, but you know what, it doesn't matter, he got the goal. I think that Boskovic is going to be a very important part for DC down the stretch. If they're going to make it in the playoffs, they're in a good spot right now. It's still a little tight, but he is going to be very important for them down the stretch.
Yeah, tied for third now with the New York Red Bulls, who tied 1-1 on Saturday. The other one in the Eastern Conference to pay attention to on Sunday, Philadelphia, big 3-1 win against the Houston Dynamo, who now are fighting with the Columbus Crew for that fifth place. It was DC, now Houston's in tenuous position.
Hey, you know what? This was a good performance from Philadelphia. They went out there and they ran at Houston as much as they could. Freddie with 2 goals on the day. Probably his best performance we've seen this season, although I think we might have said that a couple times also. Then he went out with an injury late, a couple of other injuries actually for Philly as well. Keane Daniel getting an injury in this one. But you have to say that Houston struggled. Look, they come up to Philadelphia and they could not put it all together. Normally the set pieces that work so well for them, the big bodies, it just was not flowing for them on this one. And they're in trouble. Dominic Kinnear supposedly after the game was yelling at his team enough that you could hear it down the hall at PPL Park. I'm sure there were a couple of expletives said in that speech. Yeah, Houston right now, I think they're reeling and they're not really sure what's going on. But you know what? They're so good at home. You have to imagine that when they get back home, they're going to get enough of those points that they need to get into the playoffs.
Of course, playoff comes down to that home form. Houston now on 46 points. The Columbus Crew 1 behind on 45, both with 30 games played. And while position was changing out east, the same thing was happening in the west on Sunday. The big game coming in Vancouver with the Whitecaps hosting the Rapids. They've been on a 5-game slide, Greg, and Kenny Miller is saying the rot is over. That seems a little bit strange to say after a 2-2 draw at home.
I don't know if the rot is over. There seems to still be lots of mold on things at least. I mean, right now, when you are up at home against Colorado, a team that's basically out of the playoffs, despite what their head coach very optimistically says, you're up 2-1, it's late. You cannot give up a goal like that to end up with a draw at home when you're pushing for the playoffs. They would have been in a very good spot had they gotten 3 points. Instead, it's a 2-2 draw. They give up a late goal in this one. Really sloppy defending from 2 of the most veteran players on the Whitecaps, Alain Rochat and YP Lee in the middle, ends up setting up Jamie Smith for the goal. Not good from the Whitecaps in this one, and they drop 2 points on it.
Yeah, their main competition, FC Dallas, not in action this weekend. Both those teams now even on games played. Vancouver with just the 2-point advantage. One team that did seal their place in the postseason, the LA Galaxy, a 4-2 win against Toronto FC. They are now in.
I'm not sure at this point which team you are more afraid of to play in the playoffs. The LA Galaxy, considering all that they've done to press in the second half of the season and get into the playoffs, or the Chicago Fire, who are winners of 7 of their last 8, I believe. So it's amazing the sort of the stretches that they've been on. But the Galaxy looked so good. No David Beckham, no problem. They did everything they needed to do. Robbie Keane got 2 goals on this one, but of course the big name, Juninho, with a shocker from distance in the upper 90, which you have to check out.
Yeah, a beautiful goal from Juninho. Of course, remember, he's part of that 24 under 24 countdown that we had ended last week with Darren Maddox at number 1. Check out MLSsoccer.com to see where Juninho finished up. And you said it, Greg, Chicago is flying right now. Another big result this weekend. We're talking about the Supporters' Shield. San Jose really pushing out their lead, but Sporting Kansas City's got to be a little bit worried about the Fire right now.
Well, I think if you're looking at the Eastern Conference title, then yes, Sporting are a little worried about Chicago. The big matchup coming up this Friday when those two will square off. In the Supporters' Shield, I think basically San Jose locked it up this weekend. Getting 3 points up in Seattle was huge. They put enough distance between themselves and Sporting, considering the Sporting only got the draw in Montreal, that at this point I think Seattle have locked up. It's not mathematically done, but for all intents and purposes, it's theirs.
Of course, that's all we have for today on The Daily. Make sure you check out Extra Time Radio this afternoon. We will talk to Chris Rolfe himself. You can grab that on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Buzzsprout. Also, make sure you vote for the AT&T Goal of the Week. Surely Juninho will be in on that one. Until Tuesday, we'll see you later.